Hello and welcome to Turtle Island Tetragrammaton. I'm Nicholas Jeremiah. This is my channel and this is what I do on my channel. Lately I've been reading. I'm trying to get it close so you can hear me. Trying to get it a little brighter. I've been reading Bernhard Guenther. I read his past, I want to say 4 articles. This is his latest article. Who is Bernhard Guenther? I should run through. Time of transition. I'll send you to his Substack. And, okay, psycho-spiritual researcher, guide, soul embodiment, matrix deconstruction, co-host of the Cosmic Matrix podcast. I mean, I got a lot to say about him, but I think he's coming from a genuine place, and I'm interested in reading this. This was published on July 4th. What I'm interested in... Oh, I can open it, I think. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have opened it. Just like that. He publishes this on July 4th, right? Okay, perfect. I don't know if Bernhard Guenther lives in United States, but published on July 4th. And it has an American flag in the header, and I'm looking to... I guess this will teach me a little bit about Bernhard. It's always a labor and an effort for me because I have other ways to spend my time. You know what I mean? But his work is important to me on like a level that I don't understand. It's just outside of my comprehension. But I recently read Laura Metsu Guenther. Recently read her post about mental health. And that taught me a little bit about her. I wanted to read more of her articles in the future. But for today, I'm reading Time of Transition. The Escape That Changed Everything. And I'll share the Substack below if you want to follow him yourself and support Bernhard. His website is piercingtheveil.com. I've initially found him on Instagram. I told you I didn't really... That's why this is deeper to me. Because I'm not really into this stuff. I need to learn about it and know about it just to enrich my spiritual life, but I don't really... It's not to say I don't care. I always learn something. And here we'll get to know Bernhard here. The Escape That Changed Everything. A true story of trauma, faith, and the deeper meaning of freedom. That is a huge boat. And the 50 stars there. Here we go. I am tired. I'm going to get through this. It's 3 a.m. A child in captivity. Before I could understand freedom, I had to understand what my father went through to get it. his story long buried, finally came to light. My dad was born in 1937 in Germany at the beginning of World War II. He grew up in what used to be Eastern Germany after World War II, when Germany was divided in 1949, and the eastern portion became part of the Soviet Eastern Bloc. Officially, it was called the GDR, German Democratic Republic, a name that was deceptive because it was anything but democratic. Soviet occupation authorities began transferring administrative responsibility. I can't even read this. These words are just not making any sense. Soviet occupation authorities began transferring administrative responsibility to German communist leaders in 1948, and the GDR, German Democratic Republic, began functioning as a communist, socialist, Marxist state in 1949. It was essentially a dictatorship governed by the Socialist Unity Party of Germany, SED, which made the teachings of Marxism, Leninism compulsory in schools. The economy was centrally planned and increasingly state-owned. Prices of housing, basic goods, grocery stores, and services were heavily subsidized and set by central government planners. Many things were, quote, free or very cheap, supplied by the state, but they came at a heavy price in other ways. In 1961, the socialist government fortified its western borders and built the Berlin Wall. Just reading that sentence a few more times, I did not know the story of the Berlin Wall. I don't know much about this. People living in Eastern Germany were not allowed to travel to any Western countries, let alone consume Western goods or media. Many people attempting to flee to the West between 61 and 90 were killed by border guards, booby traps, and landmines. Those who were captured spent a large amount of time imprisoned for attempting to escape. Emotional distance and hidden trauma. That's topic 2 then. Usually keep track. Throughout my childhood growing up in Munich, Western Germany, my dad had difficulty relating to me emotionally. He always seemed aloof, checked out, and not very present. His lack of emotional intelligence lasted for decades, well into my adulthood. Back then, I resented him for not being there in the way I needed him to be as a dad. He suffered from massive migraines and would never talk about his past. As I grew older, I understood he was dealing with severe trauma from growing up as a child in the middle of World War II and then living under socialist rule in Germany, where he eventually escaped in 1965. He never shared the details of his escape, mostly because he didn't remember. He had blocked it out due to the trauma he experienced. When my mom and I tried to talk to him about it, he got agitated and even nauseous. He kept a folder from his brother that contained letters and documents from his past, but he could never read them or even look at them. For 55 years, they stayed locked away. Remembering and writing to heal. 5 years ago, at the age of 83, with much compassionate support from my mom and myself, he was finally able to confront his past and look at all the documents and letters. It opened up an incredible healing journey for him, which led him to write a little book called The Event That Changed My Life. He printed a few copies of the book for family and close friends only. In this book, he described the details of his and his parents' escape from Eastern Germany. All the memories he had blocked out came flooding back during the writing process. It was the most liberating and healing work he had ever done. He felt like a huge weight had been lifted off his entire being. He said he felt alive, energized, and happy. I've never seen him so emotionally open, relieved, and grounded. Topic 4. The escape attempt. My dad's brother had already escaped to the West in 1961 at the age of 17, just before the Berlin Wall was built. He later immigrated to the USA and started a new life in Los Angeles. My dad and his parents didn't realize what was coming, as did most people in East Germany, and stayed behind. Oh, yawn. His brother wrote letters trying to find a way for them to escape. My dad's biggest dream was to come to the U.S., quote, the land of the free, end quote, and attend UCLA. In 1964, my dad and his parents got very lucky. They were given cruise tickets on the Volker Freudendschaft, an East German state-owned cruise ship traveling through the Mediterranean Sea for sightseeing. The ship never docked in any Western countries. The cruise was typical socialist communist propaganda, meant to showcase the illusion that East Germans had a, quote, good life, end quote. The ship's name translates to, quote, people's friendship, end quote. Realizing this was a rare opportunity, my dad and his parents meticulously prepared for escape. On October 26, 1964, my dad, aged 27, and his parents, in their 50s, jumped off the ship as it passed near Palermo, Italy, and swam toward a nearby Italian fishing boat. The boat saw them and began steering toward them, but then suddenly stopped and turned away. Looking back, they saw another boat approaching, guards from the cruise ship chasing them down. Topic 5. Imprisonment and a miraculous rescue. They were caught and put into solitary confinement back on the ship. A nurse who attended to my dad managed to smuggle him a pen and paper so he could write a letter to his brother, which she then sent to the U.S. They were taken off the ship and placed in a prison in Romania, and later flown to Moscow before being returned to East Germany. The entire time they were under the custody of the Stasi and KGB agents. My dad and my grandfather were each sentenced to 2 years in prison. My grandmother got 1.5. They were placed in separate prisons in different cities and forbidden from communicating with one another. My dad still doesn't remember everything that happened during his time in prison. One can only imagine how traumatic it must have been for him to block those memories to survive. To keep this brief, his brother in LA, only 25 years old at the time, made tremendous efforts to help, contacting the American Embassy, the U.S. State Department, and the West German government. Through miraculous and divinely guided synchronicities, a well-known lawyer was able to strike a deal with East German officials and, quote, buy, end quote, their freedom. In August 1965, they were picked up by a bus and driven to a refugee camp in West Germany after 10 months in prison. Free at last. Topic 6. A new life in the West. A year later, my dad met my mom, who had escaped communist Poland with her family. After some years in Germany, my dad realized his dream. He and my mom moved to the U.S. He enrolled at UCLA, earned his PhD, and in 1972, I was born. Looking back over all the facts, documents, and memories, my dad realized that none of this would have been possible without the help of certain individuals in the U.S. government working in collaboration with German officials in Berlin. There are indeed good people in government. Topic 7. Romanticizing socialism and forgetting the past. I'm sharing this story in light of how polarized the U.S. has become and how many young people and college students today romanticize socialism and even Marxism. Some cities like New York may even elect socialist leaders. It's made me reflect on how easily freedom is taken for granted in the U.S. Many of those who constantly complain about the state of this country have never lived anywhere else, especially not in a full-on socialist regime like my father's. Guess I gotta keep that open. And I'm not excluding myself from this either. In my younger years, I used to talk shit. My immature, angry, anarchist, revolutionary phase. Criticizing everything. The founding fathers, being slave owners, imperialism, wars, the military-industrial complex, the genocide of Native Americans, the corruption in government, taxation being theft, issues with capitalism, the religion of statism, etc. Some of those critiques are valid to a degree. No government can ever give you, quote, true freedom. As anarchists philosophically argue, and I still believe taxation is theft. Ugh! Yeah, get 'em, Bernhard! Topic 8. Real freedom begins within. However, I've also come to realize that true freedom and sovereignty are largely an internal matter. What good is external freedom if you're still a slave to your desires, unconscious wounds, triggers, shadow projections, mechanical reactive knee-jerk behaviors, or cultural and social conditioning? I've had it pretty damn good here in the U.S. so far, and I would say that goes for the most of you reading this, especially compared to what my dad and many others endured under socialist and communist regimes. The life I've created here since moving to the U.S. 31 years ago, at the age of 22, is something I likely could not have achieved in Western Germany or anywhere else in Europe. The level of freedom and opportunity I've experienced, I know I wouldn't have had in more socialist-regulated countries. Even, quote, champagne socialism, end quote, like most of Europe today, where government control and taxation are far more restrictive. Of course, the U.S. is not perfect. No country is. Just like there's no single person on this planet today who is perfect, unless you've attained full enlightenment, in which case there is no you. There are real problems. Corruption, injustice, exploitation, all of that is true to varying degrees. I don't see the U.S. as some perfect utopia. We're still far from unity or peace in terms of the collective evolution of consciousness. Any outer system or government is also a reflection of our inner state. That's crucial. I always remember this quote from Jordan Maxwell, who said, he made a big point of this. He said, people get the government they deserve. And that always left a profound impact on me. People get the government they deserve. As above, so below. As within, so without. Topic 9. The battle for consciousness. We're in this for the long haul. The next few decades will be as turbulent as the Osoric hostile forces push for more control in an Orwellian, socialist-style New World Order and try to destroy the West. However, there will also be a counterforce toward awakening and sovereignty as we move through this time of transition, both karmically, collectively, and individually. It's the descent and ascent at the same time. This is exactly what I've been talking about. In different language. There's nothing to complain about. We chose to be here and participate in this human experiences. Essentially, we don't get to move on until we have learned our lessons on all levels. There can be no outer freedom if we have not attained inner liberation, baby. Everything we have suppressed, avoided looking at, and ignored not only needs to, but will come up. The more we resist, the more difficult it will be. The more we externalize, the more lost we will be. At the same time, we must not shy away from outward action. This kind of unconditional surrender to the necessary purification process and ultimately to the divine is not easy at first, for most of the resistance is unconsciously buried deep within us, behind the thick, psychologically and emotional armor we've accumulated over lifetimes, including ancestral trauma and karma. From a yogic and astrological perspective, we're entering the, quote, eye of the needle, end quote. This transformative upheaval is expected to intensify over the next 3 decades. But don't fear the future. Rejoice and embrace these times. Take on the challenges like the spiritual warrior you are. 2036 is the start of the golden future. 3 decades brings us into 2050. So that is 24 years off. So I don't know why he would make predictions. Transformative upheaval intensify over the next 3 decades. I think this happens quicker than that. But no, I'm just reading his article. It's his perspective, not mine. Rejoice and embrace these times. Take on the challenges like the spiritual warrior you are. Topic 10. Grace and gratitude. This is a battle on multi-dimensional levels. But the divine will always prevail. Yet we still have to play our part and never take freedom for granted. If I've learned anything from my father, it's that there's a divine power guiding us all. With faith and determination and healthy optimism, we can overcome anything and rise in our true inner power. Isn't it just so boring, man? I'm deeply grateful to this country for the freedom it has given me. Freedom that my father could only dream of as a young man behind the wall. His courageous escape, his dream fulfilled, gave me the foundation for the life I now live. I will never take that for granted. I will protect and defend that freedom, within and without, with God's help. Godspeed. And this man's opinion is a high level. And when someone like this talks about God, you listen. You listen to that man. I noticed he used a capital H for his to describe Jesus in one of his last articles. I guess that's just another aspect to Bernhard that we are looking at. I don't know how he views his Christianity, but psycho-spiritual researcher, he's talking about the battle. He's talking about the spiritual battle. And someone else I found, I could have read it like this. How did that happen? Is this the same website? It's better to read it like this. The other website I found was called A Chemical Tech Revolution. Yeah, this dude is a fucking nutter. Another Christian. I like him. I like Christians. Christians are cool. Crow 777 episodes. So, yeah, I heard Wayne McCroy. This guy is a beast. In a good way. He's gone very deep into the research. These are all his appearances on Crow 777. Looks like a lot here. Let me say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 31 times. So that's where I found this guy, Wayne McCroy, as a link tree. I would just listen to these, man. This is a great website to have. So, yeah, this dude, you can go pretty deep listening to this dude. Yeah, dude, this dude is nuts. And it's very much related to what we're talking about on the time of transition. Very much related. So, thank you for joining me. I'll share Bernhard, his Substack below, and you can support his work. And if you're interested in supporting, I think it's still going, right? If you want to support me, just go to Bandcamp and buy my music. I always put a Bandcamp link in my page. And, you can listen to it, download some. If I see any support for my albums, then it gives me motivation. I'm not asking for a huge donation. I don't even have a PayPal, so if you want to support me, go to Bandcamp. I'm just dropping all my lead. I keep dropping all my lead. What is wrong with me? Why would I drop all my lead? What an idiot. Yeah, that's it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I keep uploading. Got a lot to say. But thanks for reading with me, and I'll see you guys again soon. Good night. Bye.